How John D. Rockefeller became the world's first billionaire. Picture one man sitting at the center of an empire that controlled most of America's oil refining. Refineries in a dozen states, pipelines crossing the country, railroads bending to his will. By 1916, he was worth nearly $1 billion, the first billionaire in history. But here's the strange part. He did not get rich by finding oil. He got rich by controlling everything around it. To understand how, we have to go back to a boy who counted every single penny. John Davison Rockefeller was born in 1839 in upstate New York. The family was not rich. His father was an often absent traveling salesman, and his family life was unstable. So young John learned early that money was not something you trusted. It was something you tracked. As a boy, he kept a small notebook he called Ledger A. In it, he wrote down every cent he earned and every cent he spent. Not most of it, all of it. While other children played, he was recording numbers. That habit became his entire personality. At 16, he landed his first real job as an assistant bookkeeper in Cleveland. The pay was tiny, but Rockefeller did not see a clerk's desk. He saw a school. He studied how businesses moved money where they wasted it, and where it quietly leaked away. He noticed something most people never do. The men who made the most were rarely the men doing the most exciting work. They were the ones who controlled the flow. Then, in 1859, the world changed. Oil was struck in Titusville, Pennsylvania. Almost overnight, thousands of men rushed in to drill. They were gamblers chasing a fountain in the ground. Some struck it rich. Most went broke. The oil fields were chaos, mud, and desperation. And Rockefeller, now a young businessman, looked at all of it and asked a colder question. Where is the real bottleneck? Here was his signature insight. Crude oil straight out of the ground was only the beginning. It had to be refined into kerosene before it could light homes across America. The drillers were fighting over the messy, unpredictable part. But every barrel they pulled up had to pass through a refinery to become valuable. So Rockefeller ignored the wells. In 1863, he invested in his first refinery in Cleveland. While everyone chased the oil, he quietly took control of the gate it had to pass through. In 1870, he founded Standard Oil. And now the system building began. Most refiners thought about how to sell more. Rockefeller obsessed over how to spend less. He measured everything. When he learned that sealing a barrel took 40 drops of solder, he asked if it could be done with 39. It could. That tiny saving, multiplied across millions of barrels, became a fortune. He built his own barrels from his own timber to avoid paying others. Every cent saved was a weapon his rivals did not have. Then he turned to the railroads. Oil moved by train, and the railroads were desperate for steady cargo. So Rockefeller made them an offer. Guarantee them enormous reliable shipments, and in return demand secret discounts called rebates. Because he shipped more than anyone, he paid less than anyone. His competitors paid full price to move the very same product. But the deals went further. In some secret arrangements, the railroads paid Standard Oil a cut of what rivals were charged to ship their own oil. So Rockefeller profited even when competitors shipped a barrel. These hidden arrangements tilted the entire market against everyone else. The gap was brutal. Rockefeller could undersell every rival and still make money. Now the machine had momentum. He controlled refining and he controlled transport. So he kept building outward. He invested in pipelines to bypass the railroads entirely when it suited him. He built distribution networks to deliver kerosene directly to stores. He owned the barrels, the warehouses, the chemists, the timber. Each piece lowered his cost and tightened his grip. Profits were not spent on luxury. They were poured straight back into buying more of the system. And then came the rivals. Across the country, small refiners suddenly faced a brutal choice. They could sell to Standard Oil, or they could try to compete against it. But competing meant fighting a company with lower costs, secret transport advantages, and deep enough pockets to survive a price war. When a rival refused to sell, Standard Oil would slash prices in that exact area until the competitor simply could not hold on. It was not a fair fight, and it was not meant to be. One by one, they sold. By the early 1880s, Standard Oil controlled around 90% of America's refining capacity. Not by drilling the most oil, by owning the path every barrel had to travel. But a machine that big does not stay invisible. The public began to notice that one company decided the price of the light in their homes. People grew furious at the secret rebates, the predatory price cutting, and the relentless pressure on smaller businesses. Newspapers ran angry headlines. A journalist named Ida Tarbell published a devastating investigation exposing Standard Oil's hidden deals and crushing tactics. The word monopoly was suddenly on everyone's lips. Rockefeller, the quiet bookkeeper, had become the most feared businessman in America, and the government was starting to watch. In 1890, Congress passed the Sherman Antitrust Act, a law designed to break up companies that strangled competition. For years, the battle moved through the courts. The evidence was clear. Standard Oil had used secret rebates, predatory pricing, and anti-competitive pressure to crush rivals and dominate the market. Then, in 1911, the Supreme Court delivered its verdict. Standard Oil was an illegal monopoly, and it had to be broken apart. The empire was split into 34 separate companies. On paper, it looked like the end. The system Rockefeller spent 40 years building was being torn into pieces by the United States government. And here is the twist nobody expected. Rockefeller owned shares in the giant company. When it shattered into 34 pieces, he received shares in every single one of them. Freed to compete on their own, those new companies grew, and their stock climbed. As their value rose, so did Rockefeller's. The breakup that was meant to punish him made him richer than ever. It was in the years after 1911 that his fortune climbed toward that historic billion. By 1916, his wealth crossed $1 billion, an almost unimaginable level of personal fortune for that era. Companies born from that split still exist today, with names like ExxonMobil and Chevron. So remember Ledger A, the little notebook where a boy tracked every cent. That obsession never left him. Rockefeller did not win because he found oil. The drillers found oil, and most of them died poor. He won because he controlled the system the oil had to pass through, the refining, the rails, the barrels, the pipelines, the distribution. Anyone can chase the prize. The real fortune was built by the man who owned the road to it.